Let's now bring in our political analyst, Professor Michael Genovese from Loyola Marymount University. Welcome back to the show, Professor. Thank you so much. Now, on Wednesday, Mr. Trump had his first news conference since he was elected. He answered a lot of issues. Of course, though, a lot of people are concerned about conflict of interest. He's a successful businessman with interests all over the world. He said his 2 adult sons would take over the company, but does his plan to disentangle himself go far enough, in your opinion?
Well, first, an unsolicited early Valentine. Dave Bryan is the best political reporter in Los Angeles news, period. Okay, enough said. But on the potential conflicts of interest, this is Donald Trump's Achilles heel, and it very well could bring him down. You remember Richard Nixon and Nixon Frost, both in reality and in the movie, ended up saying, in exasperation, I gave them a sword. This is the sword Donald Trump is giving his opponents. He took several steps in the right direction, no question about that, but all the ethics experts, even the ones from the George W. Bush administration, say it doesn't go nearly far enough. He isn't divesting, but his holdings are so vast that I don't think we can expect him to do that. The alternative is to have a blind trust. He didn't do that. He still owns the business. His sons are running the business. It's still a family business. And so, you know, he opens himself up for all kinds of criticism. It's gotten so bad that the Congressman Jason Chaffetz from Utah, who heads one of the investigating committees, threatened the U.S. Director of Government Ethics if he keeps saying things in public, threatening him because he's doing his job. That's how worried the Republicans are. So it's a potentially explosive issue for Donald Trump.
Now, of course, a lot of interest, too, on potential links between Russia and Mr. Trump. And at the news conference, you know, many questions were asked about reports that Russia has information that could be used to blackmail Mr. Trump. What do you make of these unconfirmed reports, Professor?
The reports are disturbing but unconfirmed, and I think we need to treat them as unconfirmed. They will be further investigated, and if plausible evidence is presented, then they'll follow those leads. But as of right now, it's an allegation, and merely that, and it should not be taken seriously. The problem for Trump is that it plays into the narrative of who Trump is. Remember, he's the one who said in the infamous Access Hollywood tape, you know, grabbed them by the blank. And so what is absurd may become plausible because of the background that Trump has allowed to emerge as to his treatment of women.
Now, let's look forward. Friday, we're just days away from the inauguration. Let's take a step back and historically, what can we expect at the inauguration, Professor?
Well, inaugurations, rhetoricians say, are epidictic events, which means ceremonial, from the Greek diaxis, which means to display. And so they're designed because ceremonies are important. In religious services, ceremony is important. The same is true in politics. And this is the national ceremony. Every 4 years, it brings us together, a sign of national unity, a sign of moving together, and a sign that we are one nation. And so that's, in general, what these inaugurations are all about.
What do you think we can expect from Mr. Trump?
Well, he says that he's going to write his own address and that it will be short. Most of these speeches follow a script. And in the case of Donald Trump, he's going to have to try to unify a divided nation, talk about the future in very general terms. The serious policy initiatives, he'll talk about those in the State of the Union. What he wants to do is basically have a bring us together speech, a national unity speech, which is going to be difficult given the circumstances.
Has any other president-elect faced a similar situation where the country seems to be so deeply divided?
Probably the one time that is called to mind is 1801 with Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson followed 12 years of Federalist rule, the first of the opposite party to win. They didn't know that he'd even be inaugurated. They thought that maybe the Federalists would interfere. And it was a very divisive race, such as ours was. And Jefferson's attempt was a bring us together speech. He said, you know, there are people who wish to divide the nation. Let them speak up, because that shows the strength of our nation that will survive it. And then he said the great line, we are all Federalists, we are all Republicans. And that's kind of what Trump faces today, and that's what he needs to do. He needs to bring everyone together as best as he can.
All right, we'll see if he can pull it off.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor, for your insight as always.
Thank you.
And be sure to watch KCAL 9 news coverage of the presidential inauguration next Friday. We will have live reports from Washington throughout the day.